Just a closer walk with thee is a traditional gospel song that is frequently played in traditional New Orleans jazz funerals. Here we have Laura Stanley on clarinet, accompanying with the bells. Once again, we have the wonderful Greg Shivers here to play classical guitar for us. This piece he's going to play is called Cavatina by Stanley Myers. Originated in 1970 as a short excerpt for piano and expanded to a concert piece for guitar inspired by the great British guitarist John Williams. Upon its debut, it became a standard of the repertoire and a favorite for musicians of varying genres. Jazz vocalist Cleo Laine made the piece a hit again in 1973 when she added lyrics to the melody and recorded it under the title Beautiful, accompanied by the original performer John Williams. Since its premiere, it has been showcased in a variety of settings as well as television shows and movies, most notably the 1978 Robert De Niro and Christopher Walken film The Deer Hunter, as well as such diverse titles as Jarhead and even Battlestar Galactica. We are pleased once again to have joining us this year the Peactree Trombone Consort to perform Peactree Rag by Scott Joplin. Scott Joplin was an African-American composer and pianist. Joplin achieved fame for his ragtime compositions and was dubbed the king of ragtime writers. During his brief career, he wrote 44 original ragtime pieces, 1 ragtime ballet, and 2 operas. One of his first pieces, The Maple Leaf Rag, became ragtime's first and most influential hit and has been recognized as the archetypal rag. The Peactree Rag is an early piano rag written in 1901 by Joplin. For those who don't know, a peacharine is a hybrid between a peach and a nectarine, making this one of many rags by the composer with a botanical name. Although not labeled as such, Peactree Rag is a simple ragtime two-step, which was a popular type of dance. It starts off in the key of E flat with an unassuming 4-bar introduction and builds gradually in intensity, ending in the related key of A flat. Praise to the Lord the Almighty is a hymn based on Joachim Neander's German hymn Lobe den Herren, published in 1680. John Julian, in his A Dictionary of Hymnology, calls the German original a magnificent hymn of praise to God, perhaps the finest creation of its author. In this arrangement, Kathy Mokelboos sets the familiar hymn tune with a jazz swing for bells, flute, drums, and string bass. You've never heard praise to the Lord the Almighty like this. Also joining us on that piece was Ian Morrison on string bass back there. Will be a sophomore music major at Columbus, junior music major at Columbus State University, and John David on drums over here. The Suite Antique was written in 1979 in response to an invitation to write a piece for the Cookham Festival in England, and was premiered by Duke Dobing and the London Baroque Soloists in Cookham Parish Church. Since Bach's Brandenburg Concerto No. 5 was in the program, the composer John Rutter decided to write for the same combination of instruments, using the forms and styles of Bach's day. The forms and styles found in Suite Antique pay loose and perhaps winking homage to a variety of early dances and lyric styles. The suite was originally written for flute, harpsichord, and strings with 6 movements, including the 4th, a not-so-Bach-inspired jazz-influenced waltz. Its style lies closer to a bossa nova than the Baroque. As in the surrounding movements, Rudder's own style comes forth with its characteristically forward-driving rhythms and melodic lines. Venezuelan composer Antonio Lauro has been a staple and pioneer of guitar repertoire for decades. The great guitarist John Williams once went so far as to call him the Strauss of the guitar. In addition to championing the music of the guitar, Lauro introduced the native styles of his home country, Venezuela, to the art music community. Excellently demonstrated in his Venezuelan waltzes for guitar, in which he creates a unique syncopation created by perceived confusion of meter. In his folk-inspired method, he joins the ranks of other great nationalist composers such as Bartok and Granados. This waltz, his third of the set, is named Natalia after his only daughter. Linus and Lucy is a popular jazz piano composition written by Vince Guaraldi, appearing in many of the Peanuts animated television specials. Named for the fictional siblings Linus and Lucy, it was released in 1964 on the Vince Guaraldi Trio's album, Jazz Impressions of a Boy Named Charlie Brown. A Charlie Brown Christmas introduced the song to a television audience of millions of children, beginning in 1965. Since that special, the piece has introduced most of the Peanuts TV specials. It is one of the most recognizable pieces by Vince Guaraldi and has gained status as the de facto theme song of the Peanuts franchise. This arrangement is for handbells, was done by the prolific bell composer Hart Morris. Ain't Misbehavin' by Fats Waller, performed on the euphonium by John McDonald, Fats Waller was an American jazz pianist, organist, composer, singer, and comedic entertainer whose innovations to the Harlem stride style laid the groundwork for modern jazz piano, and whose best-known compositions, Ain't Misbehavin' and Honeysuckle Rose, were inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 1984 and 1999. Ain't Misbehavin' is a 1929 jazz early swing composition with 32 bars in the AABA measure with a slow to moderate pace, with lyrics by Andy Rozoff and score by Thomas Fats Waller and Harry Brooks. The number was created specifically as a theme song for the Rozoff-Waller-Brooks off-Broadway musical comedy, Connie's Hot Chocolates. Boy, I bet that was really good. In a 1941 interview with Eddie Rochester Anderson, Fats Waller claimed the song was written while lodging in an alimony prison, and that is why he was not misbehaving. Take Five is a jazz piece composed by Paul Desmond and performed by the Dave Brubeck Quartet on their 1959 album Time Out. 2 years later, it became an unlikely hit and the biggest selling jazz single ever. Included in numerous movie and television soundtracks, it still receives significant radio play. Take Five was for several years during the early 1960s the theme music for the NBC Today program. The opening bar is being played half a dozen times or more each day. Take Five was first played by the Dave Brubeck Quartet to a live audience at the Village Gate nightclub in New York City in 1959. Over the next 50 years, it was re-recorded many times and was often used by the group to close concerts. Paul Desmond, upon his death in 1977, left the rights to royalties for performances of his compositions, including Take Five, to the American Red Cross, which has since received combined royalties of approximately $100,000 per year. The song has been a staple of jazz and pop music since it was first released. The Pink Panther theme was written by Henry Mancini for the 1963 film The Pink Panther, which was awarded an Academy Award for Best Original Score in 1964. The main theme reached the top 10 on the U.S. Billboard Adult Contemporary chart and won 3 Grammy Awards. In the original film, The Pink Panther was the name of a valuable pink diamond. The animated credits featured a pink-colored panther that later appeared in theatrical shorts, merchandise, a comic book, television shows, and 3 primetime specials. The character is closely associated with the evocative Pink Panther theme. The Pink Panther theme is noted for its quirky, unusual use of chromaticism, which is derived from the Hungarian minor scale with raised 4th and 7th scale degrees. I didn't know that. Today, Mr. Reisman will perform the Pink Panther with the use of a loop station by first layering various parts as an accompaniment. He can then play the melody simultaneously. me also mention that Philip wrote that arrangement too. Fly Me to the Moon, originally titled In Other Words, is a popular song written in 1954 by Bart Howard. Kay Ballard made the first recording of the song in 1954. I didn't even know she sang. Since then, it's become a frequently recorded jazz standard, often featured in popular culture. Frank Sinatra's 1964 version was closely associated with the Apollo missions to the moon. A copy of the song was played on the Apollo 10 mission, which orbited the moon. It became the first music ever heard on the moon when played on a portable cassette player by Apollo 11 astronaut Buzz Aldrin after he stepped onto the moon. The song's association with Apollo 11 was reprised many years later when Diana Krall sang it at the mission's 40th anniversary commemoration ceremony. She also sang a slow and solemn version in 2012 at the National Memorial Service for Apollo 11 mission commander Neil Armstrong. Fly Me to the Moon.